The desperate plea the storm over Iceland's eastern coast came without warning, turning the midnight sky into sheets of silver and black. Nera Valen stood at the observation window of Research Station Thorvald, her breath fogging the reinforced glass as she watched lightning dance across the North Atlantic. She'd been reviewing xenobiology reports when the alarm started screaming. Unidentified object entering atmosphere, the automated system announced. Impact trajectory calculated. Brace for... The explosion lit up the horizon like a second sun. Nera grabbed her emergency kit and was out the door before the rest of the skeleton crew could react. Her truck bounced over volcanic rock and frozen tundra, headlights cutting through smoke that rose from the crash site. The meteorite warnings had been false. This was no space rock. The vessel was smaller than she expected, barely larger than a commercial aircraft, but its design defied every principle of human engineering. Curved metal that seemed to breathe, panels that flickered with dying light, and a hull torn open like paper. Nera approached carefully, her scanner detecting trace radiation, but nothing immediately lethal. Then she heard it, a sound between a groan and a whisper. Inside the wreckage, illuminated by sparking conduits, lay a figure that made her heart stop. Humanoid, but distinctly other. His skin held an opalescent quality, shifting between deep blue and silver in the emergency lights. Three jointed limbs sprawled at angles that suggested multiple fractures, but his eyes, when they opened and found hers, held such desperate hope that Nera forgot every first contact protocol she'd ever studied. "Please," he rasped in broken English, the translator device at his throat crackling. "Not invasion, fleeing, need sanctuary." Nera dropped to her knees beside him, medical training overriding shock. "I'm Nera. I'm going to help you. Can you tell me your name?" "Kethros." His breathing was labored. "Vakrin, soldier. Last of my unit, they're coming. Hunting us. Killing us all. Who's hunting you?" His eyes closed, and for a terrible moment, Nera thought she'd lost him. Then they opened again, filled with ancient pain. "We thought we were strong. We were wrong. Now we run, hoping someone might care." Nera worked quickly, applying field dressings to wounds that leaked fluid more silver than red. She radioed the station, keeping her voice steady despite her racing pulse. "Director Webb, we have a situation. Alien survivor. Critical condition. He's asking for political asylum." The silence on the other end spoke volumes. Then Marcus Webb's gravelly voice came through, heavy with the weight of history. "Nera, do you understand what you're saying? First contact protocol demands He's dying, Marcus. We can follow protocol after I save his life." Another pause. "Get him to the medical bay. I'm contacting Geneva. God help us all, but we're not going to let someone bleed out on our doorstep." As Nera stabilized Kethros for transport, his hand found hers, fingers longer than human, but the grip unmistakably grateful. "Your world," he whispered. "Is it kind?" Nera looked into those alien eyes and saw only a soldier who'd seen too much death, who'd crossed impossible distances on a fragile hope that somewhere in the universe, someone might choose compassion over fear. "We're going to find out together," she said softly. By dawn, Research Station Thorvald had become the most important location on Earth. Kethros lay in the medical bay, stabilized by a team of doctors who'd never dreamed they'd treat an alien patient. Nera stayed by his side through the night, watching his breathing steady, noting how his biology responded to human medicine with surprising compatibility. When he woke fully, the morning sun streaming through the bay windows, his first words changed everything. "There are more coming. Not soldiers, refugees, families, children. We sent word that Earth might shelter us. Will you?" Nera felt the weight of that question settle over her shoulders. Outside, the world's governments were already in emergency sessions, military forces mobilized. News networks screamed speculation. But here, in this quiet room, the only thing that mattered was the truth in Kethros's voice. She squeezed his hand gently. "Let me introduce you to humanity. We've made plenty of mistakes, but one thing we've always been good at. We know what it means to protect those who need shelter." Director Webb entered the room, his face lined with exhaustion, but his eyes sharp. "The Security Council wants answers, Nera. But first I need to know, Kethros, is it? What exactly are you running from?" Kethros sat up slowly, and Nera noticed how his posture straightened despite his injuries. A soldier's dignity. The Skorath Horde. Machines of war that consume civilizations. "They've already taken 40 worlds. My people. His voice broke. We barely evacuated 1,000 souls. We heard stories of Earth, a world that survived its own darkness. We hoped perhaps you'd understand what it means to fight extinction. Marcus exchanged a long look with Nira. Then he nodded slowly. Then let's make history. Welcome to Earth, Kethros. Let's show the galaxy what humanity does when someone asks for help. The Council of Voices, the halls of Geneva's emergency assembly, buzzed with more languages than had ever been spoken in one place. Nira walked beside Kethros, acutely aware of every eye following them. He'd insisted on attending despite his injuries, wearing a simple gray suit tailored hastily to accommodate his frame. His posture remained military straight, but Nira felt the tremor in his hand when it briefly brushed hers. 300 ships detected at Jupiter's orbit, announced Amara Osei, her crisp accent cutting through the murmurs. The African Union's chief engineer stood before a holographic display showing dozens of vessels, fragile, damaged, limping toward Earth. They're transmitting distress signals. Energy signatures match Kethros's ship. Minimal weapons. Maximum life support. Jin Park stepped forward, the humanitarian coordinator's face reflecting the weight of the moment. We're looking at approximately 15,000 refugees. Men, women, children. They've been traveling for 8 months. Their supplies are nearly exhausted. And how do we know this isn't a Trojan horse? Demanded a general from the back. Sympathy first, invasion second. Kethros stood, and the room fell silent. When he spoke, his voice carried the exhaustion of worlds lost. If we wanted to invade, we would already be ash. The Skorath don't leave survivors, they leave examples. He activated his wrist device, projecting images that made several delegates look away. Worlds burning, cities collapsing, crowds fleeing beneath red skies. This is what we ran from. This is what follows us. If you turn us away, you condemn us to extinction. But more than that, you tell the Skorath that Earth is too afraid to help. The silence stretched. Then Director Webb stood. We vote. Sanctuary, yes or no. The vote wasn't unanimous, but it was decisive. 73 nations voted yes. Earth would become a refuge. That night, Nira found Kethros on the observation deck, staring at the stars where his people drifted in hope. She brought 2 cups of tea, unsure if his biology could process it, but needing the ritual of shared comfort. Thank you, he said quietly, accepting the cup. For believing me, for speaking for us, I didn't do much. You convinced them yourself. No. He turned to face her, and in the dim light his features seemed to shift between alien and achingly familiar. You were the first face I saw. The first voice that offered help instead of fear. That mattered more than any speech. Their eyes met, and Nira felt something shift in her chest. Something dangerous and inevitable. Tell me about your world. Before the Skorath, Kethros's expression softened. We had 3 moons. Our cities were built into canyon walls, carved over generations. We were artists, philosophers. We thought ourselves too civilized for war. His laugh held bitterness. That's what made us easy prey. You're a soldier. You fought. I became one when I had to. My profession was music. I composed arrangements for gravitational harmonics. He paused, seeming embarrassed. It sounds foolish now. It sounds beautiful. Nira shifted closer, their shoulders nearly touching. Maybe that's what you can teach us, how to be strong enough to protect beauty. His hand found hers in the darkness, fingers intertwining despite their differences. Is this appropriate between our kinds? Nira's heart raced. I don't know, but I think we're writing new rules now. They sat together as Earth turned below them. 2 souls from different worlds, discovering that loneliness spoke a universal language. 3 weeks later, the Vakran fleet entered Earth's orbit. Amara Osei stood in the command center, coordinating the most complex operation humanity had ever attempted. We're establishing a perimeter. Medical ships first, then supply transports. We need those refugees checked for diseases and injuries before landing. Jin Park worked beside her, organizing housing across 12 nations that had volunteered space. South America's offering temporary settlements in Argentina and Chile. Australia's opening reception centers. Iceland, where this started, they're building permanent housing. Nira coordinated the cultural integration teams, but her eyes kept finding Kethros across the room. He worked tirelessly as a liaison, translating not just language but context, explaining Vakran customs and needs. She watched how gently he spoke with frightened refugees on the view screens, how he held crying children and promised them safety. During a brief break, he found her in an empty corridor. "Nira, I need to tell you something." The seriousness in his voice made her stomach tighten. "What is it?" "Among my people, when someone saves your life, there's a debt, a bond. But more than that." He stepped closer, his voice dropping. "I've been watching you. How you fight for people you just met. How you see individuals, not just numbers. I don't know your customs of courtship, but among Vakrin, I would be asking permission to share your path." Nira's breath caught. Every protocol, every regulation said this was impossible. She was human. He was alien. They'd known each other mere weeks, but her heart didn't care about protocols. "My customs," she said softly, reaching up to touch his face, skin cool and smooth like polished stone. "Say that when you feel something real, you don't hide it." She rose on her toes, pressing her lips to his in a kiss that bridged galaxies. When they parted, Kethros's eyes shimmered with emotion. "Your world is kind," he whispered. "Kinder than we dared hope. Then let's make sure it stays that way." Building bridges. The construction of New Haven began in the grasslands of Montana, where wide skies reminded the Vakrin of home. Amara Osi surveyed the site from a mobile command center, her tablet displaying architectural plans that blended human engineering with Vakrin aesthetics. "The habitation domes will regulate atmosphere for both species," she explained to the gathered press. "We're not building a refugee camp. We're building a city." Beside her, a Vakrin engineer named Torves gestured to the foundation work. "Your concrete is crude but effective. May I suggest incorporating resonance stabilizers? They'll strengthen the structure and produce ambient music when wind passes through." Amara's eyes lit up. "Show me." Within days, human construction crews worked alongside Vakrin technicians, learning from each other. Welders discovered that Vakrin metallurgy created bonds at the molecular level. Architects found that Vakrin environmental systems could reduce energy consumption by 60%. The settlement rose from empty plain into something neither species could have built alone. Nira visited the site weekly, documenting the progress and mediating cultural misunderstandings. She found Kethros in the central plaza, teaching human children a Vakrin game that involved creating patterns with reflected light. His laughter, a sound like crystal chimes, mixed with their giggles. "You're good with them," she observed, sitting beside him on a half-finished bench. "Children adapt faster than adults. They see difference as interesting, not threatening." He watched a little girl successfully complete the light pattern and cheer. "My daughter would have been her age." Nira's hand found his. "Would have been." "The Skorath attacked our evacuation convoy. We lost 2 ships before jumping to light speed. She was on one of them." His voice remained steady, but his grip tightened. "Her name was Sylvie. She loved climbing the canyon walls and collecting crystal formations." "I'm so sorry, Kethros. I tell myself she didn't suffer, that it was fast." He turned to her, and she saw the weight of survivor's guilt in his eyes. "Sometimes I feel guilty for being here, for finding happiness when so many didn't escape." Nira shifted to face him fully. "She'd want you to live, to help build something new. That's what children want for their parents. A future." He pulled her close, their foreheads touching in the Vakrin gesture of intimate trust. "You give me hope, Nira. Not just for sanctuary, but for something more. A real life, not just survival." Their kiss was interrupted by Colonel James Reeves clearing his throat pointedly. The military advisor looked uncomfortable, but determined. "Sorry to interrupt, but we need to talk, privately." In Amara's office trailer, Reeves spread intelligence reports across the table. "We've been monitoring deep space communications. There's chatter, encrypted, but our linguists caught references to Vakrin Trail and Earth coordinates." Kethros went rigid. "The Skorath. They're following the refugees. That's our assessment. If 15,000 Vakrin came here, the Skorath will assume you're establishing a base. They'll want to eliminate it." Jin Park leaned forward. "How long do we have?" "Best guess? 3 months. Maybe 4. The room fell silent. Finally, Amara spoke. "Then we have 3 months to prepare. We're not abandoning New Haven. We're defending it." Reeves nodded grimly. "I was hoping you'd say that. I'm recommending we integrate Vakrin defensive technology with our military assets. If they're coming for a fight, let's give them one they won't forget." Kethros stood abruptly. "No, you don't understand what you're facing. The Skorath have conquered 40 civilizations. You should evacuate the Vakrin to somewhere remote, somewhere they won't find. And where would that be? Nira interrupted. Kethros, you came here because you'd run out of places to hide. Earth is making a stand. I won't let you die for us. The anguish in his voice silenced everyone. Nira rose and took his hands. That's not your choice to make. We're not doing this just for the Vakrin. We're doing it because if we let the Skorath come here and take whoever they want, we're telling the universe that Earth can be bullied. That's not who we are. Their eyes locked, 1,000 unspoken words passing between them. Finally, Kethros sagged. Then I'll help. I'll teach you everything I know about their tactics, their weapons, their weaknesses, if they have any. Director Webb's voice came through the conference speaker. That's what I was counting on. Ladies and gentlemen, we have work to do. Amara, I want those defensive systems operational yesterday. Jin, start preparing civilian evacuation protocols, just in case. Colonel, begin strategic planning. And Kethros? The director's tone softened. Thank you for trusting us with this fight. That evening, Nira found Kethros alone in their shared quarters, a small apartment in the growing settlement. He stood by the window, watching the sunset paint the grasslands gold and crimson. I'm scared, he admitted without turning. Not of dying, of losing you, of watching another world burn. Nira wrapped her arms around him from behind, feeling the tension in his frame. Then we don't waste the time we have. We live fully right now. He turned in her embrace, his hands cradling her face with infinite gentleness. Among my people, when we face uncertain futures, we perform the bonding, a promise that whatever comes, we face it together. It's not marriage in your sense, but yes, Nira breathed before he could finish. Whatever it means, whatever comes next. Yes. Their kiss deepened, desperate and tender all at once. They moved together toward the bedroom, shedding uniforms and protocols, finding in each other a sanctuary more profound than any physical place. His skin against hers felt like cool silk, their hearts beating rhythms that slowly synchronized. Later, wrapped in sheets and moonlight, Kethros traced patterns on her shoulder. In my language, there's a word, thrisven. It means someone who sees the truth of you and loves it anyway. Then you're my thrisven, Nira whispered, kissing his jaw. All of you, the soldier, the artist, the father, the survivor. I see you, Kethros, and I see you, Nira Valen, my sanctuary, my home. Outside, New Haven continued to rise. Humans and Vakrin worked through the night, building walls and installing weapons systems, preparing for a storm they all knew was coming. But in this moment, two souls found peace in each other's arms, proving that even in darkness, connection could bloom. When hunters follow, the warning came at dawn. Lieutenant Torres burst into the command center, her face pale. Director Webb, we have incoming. Multiple vessels, massive energy signatures, dropping out of light speed at Mars orbit. The main screen flickered to life, showing ships that made the Vakrin fleet look like toys. Massive, angular, built with brutal efficiency, the Skorath horde had arrived. Kethros stood frozen, old trauma flooding back. Nira felt his hand grip hers painfully tight. That's their destroyer-class flagship, he whispered. They only send those for complete extermination. Director Webb's voice remained steady. Broadcast on all frequencies. Tell them Earth is neutral territory and the Vakrin are under our protection. The response came in a voice like grinding metal. Earth, primitive species. Surrender the Vakrin survivors. You have 12 of your hours. Refusal means pacification. Pacification, Kethros translated bitterly. They mean genocide. Everyone, human and Vakrin alike. They don't leave witnesses. Colonel Reeves activated defensive protocols. All military units to ready status. Civilian evacuation beginning now. We've got orbital defense platforms, ground-to-space missiles, and our new hybrid shields courtesy of Vakrin tech. Let's see how they handle that. But even as he spoke, everyone in the room understood the math. Earth's forces, bolstered by Vakrin knowledge, might hold for days. The Skorath had conquered 40 worlds. Jin Park coordinated evacuation routes, his voice calm despite the chaos. Priority to children and elderly, both species. Deep bunkers across all continents are opening. We've got maybe 10 hours before they attack. Amara pulled Kethros aside. The resonance technology you taught us, can it be weaponized? You said it strengthens molecular bonds. What if we reverse it? Kethros's eyes widened. You'd create a dissonance wave. It could shatter their hull integrity, but he looked at Nira. It would require someone to get within close range. Suicide mission, not suicide, Amara corrected. Sacrifice. Big difference. And I've got volunteers lining up. In their quarters, Nira helped Kethros pack essentials with shaking hands. You need to evacuate with the other Vakrin. Deep bunkers in New Zealand? No. His voice was firm. I won't hide while humans die protecting my people. Kethros, please. Would you hide? If the situation were reversed. He cupped her face, forcing her to meet his eyes. We've built something here, Nira, not just buildings. A future where two species stand together. If I run now, that future dies even if I survive. Tears streamed down her face. I can't lose you, not now. Not when we've just found each other. Then come with me. One more mission. The dissonance weapon. I know their ships better than anyone. I can guide the strike team to the optimal position. You're insane. You'll die. Maybe, or maybe we'll win. He kissed her desperately, pouring everything unsaid into the gesture. But I need you with me. You're my courage, Nira. My reason to believe impossible things can happen. She knew she should refuse. Should order him to safety. Should think rationally. Instead, she kissed him back and whispered, Together then. Whatever comes. 6 hours before the deadline, a joint human Vakrin strike force assembled. 12 volunteers, 6 of each species, boarded a modified shuttle equipped with Amara's dissonance weapon. Kethros and Nira stood among them, wearing tactical suits that felt like armor and shrouds simultaneously. Director Webb addressed them via comm. You're carrying humanity's answer. Not surrender, not fear, unity. You tell those machines that Earth doesn't abandon its own. The shuttle launched silently, slipping through Earth's atmosphere under stealth fields. In the passenger bay, Nira sat pressed against Kethros, memorizing the feel of him, the steady rise and fall of his breathing, the cool touch of his skin, the way his fingers intertwined with hers. If we survive this, he murmured. I want to show you the traditional Vakrin bonding ceremony. Under 3 moons, we'll use Earth's moon and project 2 others, surrounded by both our families. When we survive this, Nira corrected fiercely. When, not if. And yes, I want that. I want everything with you. Their kiss was interrupted by the pilot's warning. Approaching the flagship, powering up the weapon. 30 seconds to optimal range. The Skorath vessel loomed before them, a mountain of metal bristling with weapons. Alarm screamed as they were detected. Energy beams lanced through space, missing by meters. 20 seconds. Kethros closed his eyes, his hands moving across the weapon's controls with the precision of a musician. The resonance needs to match their hull frequency. Too high and it deflects. Too low and nothing happens. It has to be perfect. 10 seconds. Nira wrapped her arms around him, their hearts beating against each other. If these were their last moments, she wanted them spent touching him, feeling alive despite the fear. 5, 4, 3. For Earth, Kethros whispered. For Sanctuary, Nira replied. Fire. Humanity's answer, the dissonance wave hit the Skorath flagship like a silent scream. For 3 heartbeats, nothing happened. Then the massive vessel began to vibrate, its hull rippling as molecular bonds destabilized. Cracks spread like lightning across its surface, and suddenly, catastrophically, sections began tearing apart. It's working, the pilot shouted. Hull breach detected. Multiple secondary explosions. But they weren't safe yet. The crippled flagship fired wildly, beams cutting through space. One grazed their shuttle, sending them spinning. Nira held Kethros as alarms wailed and the cabin filled with smoke. Engines failing. The pilot wrestled with controls. We're not making it back to Earth. Kethros grabbed the comm. Any ship in range, this is Vakrin Strike Leader Kethros. Weapon successful. Flagship compromised. We need immediate extraction, Static answered. Then a new voice, cold and mechanical, Commander 6 of the Skorath Horde. Impressive. You've destroyed 1 vessel. We have 50 more, and now you've shown us that Earth is not neutral. It is an enemy. The remaining Skorath ships began moving into attack formation. Back on Earth, Director Webb watched the tactical display with growing horror. They're preparing orbital bombardment. Amara, tell me you have something else. Working on it. Amara's fingers flew across holographic keyboards. If we can replicate the dissonance effect from the defense platforms. But we'd need to coordinate every system simultaneously. Kethros designed them with different frequencies to prevent cascading failure, Jin realized. But if we synchronize them all, We could create a planet-wide resonance field. Nothing hostile gets through without tearing itself apart. Amara looked up, face grim. But it'll drain our entire power grid. Every city goes dark. Every hospital, every home. For hours, maybe days. Webb didn't hesitate. Do it. Broadcast an explanation. Let people choose to sit in darkness rather than let refugees die on our doorstep. Across Earth, the message went out. In New York and New Delhi, Lagos and London, Sao Paulo and Shanghai, lights began winking out. Not in defeat, but in defiance. Families sat together in candlelight. Hospitals switched to backup generators. And above them, an invisible shield began to form. In the crippled shuttle, Nira held Kethros as their orbit decayed. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I brought this war to your world." "No. You brought us the chance to prove what we could become." She kissed him softly. "No regrets. Not one moment." Suddenly the shuttle shuddered as something locked onto it. Through the viewport, Nira saw a Vakran rescue craft matching their trajectory. "Unknown vessel," came a voice. "We've got you. Hold tight." They were pulled aboard to find the craft packed with both human and Vakran pilots. A young woman, Private Chen from the Defense Corps, grinned at them. Director's orders. Nobody gets left behind. The Skorath fleet advanced, weapons charging. Commander 6 watched Earth's lights go out and interpreted it as surrender. "Primitive fools. They think darkness will hide them. Begin bombardment." His command died as the first Skorath cruiser crossed into Earth's atmosphere. The dissonance field caught it instantly, and the massive ship began vibrating itself apart. Pieces rained down into the ocean, swallowed by waves. Another ship tried. Same result. And another. 6 stared in disbelief. "What is this? What have they done?" From Earth's surface, Director Marcus Webb broadcast on all frequencies, his voice carrying the weight of a species that had survived ice ages, plagues, world wars, and its own worst impulses. "Commander 6, you asked what we are. We are Earth. We are humanity. And we've learned something across 10,000 years of bloody history. We're strongest when we protect each other. These refugees didn't come to conquer us. They came asking for help. And when someone asks Earth for sanctuary, they find leaders willing to stand against darkness. They find builders creating futures instead of destroying them. They find protectors who believe that no one, human or alien, should face extinction alone." He paused, letting silence emphasize his next words. "You can test our defenses. Send every ship. We'll break them all. Or you can leave, spread the word. Earth is not prey. Earth is the line you don't cross. Your choice, Commander. But choose quickly. We're running out of patience." Aboard the Skorath flagship, chaos erupted. Officers argued. Systems sparked from the earlier dissonance damage. And for the first time in their conquering history, the Skorath faced something they'd never encountered, a united front that chose compassion over fear, but backed it with unshakable resolve. Commander 6 stared at the blue planet below, its darkness somehow more menacing than any weapon. Finally, he gave the order that would echo across the galaxy. "Retreat. Mark Earth as forbidden territory. Let the Council know. This world bites." The Skorath fleet turned and fled, limping back into deep space. In New Haven, lights began flickering back on. Cheers erupted from humans and Vakran alike. Nira and Kethros stumbled from the rescue craft into Amara's arms. Then Jin's, then were swept up in a crowd celebrating not just victory, but proof that impossible things could happen. Director Webb found them in the chaos. "You did it. You showed us how to fight." Kethros shook his head, his arm wrapped firmly around Nira. "No. You showed the galaxy what it means to have principles worth defending. You risked everything for refugees you barely knew, because it was right," Nira said simply. "Because that's who we choose to be." 3 months later, New Haven was officially inaugurated as Earth's first interspecies city. Vakran children played in parks designed by human and alien architects. Restaurants served fusion cuisine. Schools taught both histories, and in a small plaza under Earth's moon and 2 holographic projections, Nira Valen and Kethros stood before their gathered families, some human, some Vakran, all chosen. The ceremony blended traditions, languages, and hopes. "You've given me everything," Kethros whispered as they danced under the triple moons. "A home, a future, a reason to believe kindness still exists." "You gave me something too," Nira replied, her head resting on his shoulder. "You showed me that love doesn't need to make sense. It just needs to be real." Above them, Earth's first interstellar beacon activated, a message broadcast to every corner of the galaxy. To those who flee persecution, who seek sanctuary, who've lost their homes and fear they've lost their futures, Earth welcomes you. We are leaders who stand against tyranny. We are builders who create rather than destroy. We are protectors of those who cannot protect themselves. The journey may be long, but sanctuary awaits. You are not alone, and across the stars, on worlds ravaged by war, enslaved by empires, or simply forgotten by an indifferent cosmos, people looked up at the distant blue dot with new hope. Earth had become more than a planet. It had become a promise.